Good morning, everybody. You're welcome to be on camera. I don't know, my job that I do for a living, I am on Zoom trainings 4 days a week. So I always give my speech at the beginning, like, please be on camera, please be on mute. But you don't have to be. It's good to see a face though, if I can. Um, but my name is Corey Peterson. I am here today because I am a alumni of Head Start. So I graduated from Clarion Jefferson County Head Start in 1989. So I hope none of you were born in the 2000s because it'll make me feel even older. But when I thought about it, that 5 decades ago, so I'm 41 years old. So Head Start, I began that 38 years ago with my mother. Um, so it's crazy just to kind of look back on that and realize how fast um, 38 years can go by. But yeah, Brandy and I have become friends over the last year or so, and I've spoken at some of the Clearing Jefferson County Head Start events, and she just wanted me to share my story with you guys today. And I was gonna take notes and write something out. I like to write. I feel like I'm um, pretty good at it. But I thought today would just be easier just to speak from my heart and from my experience, and really give you guys an idea of my journey and let you have a chance to see the impact that you're making now, what it will do for people 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Even though you have those days where you think, I'm not doing anything to help anybody, you can look at this balding 41-year-old guy and think, hey, I did something for that guy. Um, so um, I'm trying to think of where to. So I'm the youngest of four. My brother and sisters are 55, 53, 48, and 41. So to say I was planned is not true. I don't think my parents wanted to have more children. So I was a happy accident, I think. And, I joke a lot. I think that's how we deal with trauma sometimes. But my parents divorced shortly after I was born. My father left. And when he left a cycle, a generation, decades of abuse towards my mom, my oldest brother, and my sisters. And we lived in a trailer in Clarion County, Pennsylvania. So wherever you guys are from, it was in a very rural part, probably like 9 miles from anything. But he left my mother, who'd been married to him for 22 years. She was from Boston. They met when he was in the military. And then he brought her back to Pennsylvania. So when he left, we lived in a trailer, and across from that trailer was my father's sister. Above him lived his mother, and beside her lived his brother. And he left us with no car, no telephone, no money, um, nothing, I guess, when we look back on it. Um, but my mother, wherever she got the courage from, you know, he left. She was moving forward, but she didn't really know how to. And I believe we found out about Head Start because her and I used to go to the laundromat together. And if you guys are younger, laundromats are where you do laundry. Not everyone has a washer and dryer. When I had one, when I became an adult, I was really happy. My wife is listening today, I think, and she'll say he's awful at doing laundry. Um, but I love having it because it's like a luxury. But there were flyers up in the laundromat. That's my memory. We might have got a ride there, but it was for Head Start in Knox. I grew up in Knox, Pennsylvania, and I don't remember how my mother got a phone event, and those little time periods because I was so young. But she contacted Head Start and got things set up. And out of her four children, I was the only one to go to preschool, first one. And they brought her with me, and she didn't know why she was coming. She was so down on herself, and never had worked and never had experiences outside the home because she wasn't allowed to. And my earliest memories are in the Head Start Suburban. They used to pick us up in this big Suburban and drive us to school each day. And my mom was a teacher's aide, helper, but whatever they called it in the 80s. And Head Start was wonderful. I mean, I remember these things, and one of my first memories is going to the Pittsburgh Zoo when I was 4, and they took a busload of us, and I can remember I really wanted this visor, really dorky fanny pack. I was that kid. My daughter's that kid now too, which I love. But I remember my mom, and looking back on it, I can tell she was counting how much money she had left to buy it. And I wore this visor everywhere, after we went on that trip. Um, but those couple years in Head Start, um, I was looking last night and I'm going to share my screen real quick. I found my graduation picture. If you guys can see it, that was me, handsome. Um, those hats were crocheted by our teachers in our classroom. I still have the crocheted hat to this day. And the other thing that I found that really made me chuckle was let me pull this up real quick. So this was before the days of, let me share my screen one more time, and then I'll move on a little bit quicker. They made invitations. So this is the same invitation that we gave out in the 80s. And I last night had a moment where I was looking at it and I thought, why do I still have this? Well, it's because my dad never picked it up. His loss, right? But I still had this in a scrapbook that my family made for me. Um, so Head Start was wonderful. And when I left Head Start, my mother, they set her up with classes for typing. So she got a certificate in typing. And then they actually hired her in the county office of Head Start to be the office manager. She worked there for like 10, 12 years. It was one of her first real jobs that wasn't in a kitchen. Before I was 5, she worked 3 jobs every day till 11:30 at night and stayed with my sisters. She always came home smelling like fried fish because she worked in a kitchen. But then she had this office job and she loved it. And, that's what she ended up doing, until she retired at 70. She's 77 now. But anyways, Head Start launched me into elementary school and I was quiet and shy. And, we eventually moved from our trailer when I was 5 into Section 8 housing in a rural community, which, everyone will call the project. It wasn't a project. It was a really nice place. But for us, it was a big deal because we were out of this trailer, out of this family dynamic that was so, horrible. And I shared a room with my mom till I was like 7. Then my one sister moved out, and then they shared a room, my other sister. And I remember to this day, I take my daughter, and I'll take my son too, to where I grew up. And when she saw the apartment building, it was one building with 4 apartments. And the first time she saw it, she said, "Which room was yours, Dad?" And I said, "Those are 4 houses, sweetheart." Because I don't want her to think that you're just born into a house with 4 bedrooms and this and that. But anyways, I went on elementary school. I achieved. I was a very good student. Won math competition, science, high school. I achieved. My mother kept thriving through all of this. I eventually went to undergrad and got my bachelor's degree. I was the first male in my family to do that. My master's degree, I was the first male in 4 generations to do that as well. Um, I don't say that bragging. I just say that we had such a cycle in our family. And my father passed away in 2010, and I finally come to peace with who he was because he was severely abused when he was young, and he never had opportunities. He did 3 tours of duty in Vietnam. I don't think he knew how to be a parent. I don't think he knew what to do, along with other issues. Um, so went to undergrad, went to college. I've worked in human services. Um, Met my wife in 2012, I think, 2013. We had 2 children. Um, what I can say about Head Start is it's the foundation for so many people that people don't realize. And when I tell people, you know, my children go to preschool, elementary school now, but we pay X dollars amount a month for preschool, so we don't qualify for Head Start. Where I said to my wife one day, I'd rather pay for them to go to Head Start, honestly, sometimes than go to preschool. Um, but I think about that, and it set the foundation for everything my mother and I were able to accomplish. So without Head Start, without them picking us up, putting my mom in classes, making her part of the classroom, taking me to dental exams. To this day, I remember those. Um, I remember the kids I was in class with. I can find some of them on Facebook. One's married to a preacher, one's a school teacher. Unfortunately, a couple have passed away from drug overdoses. We know the statistics, right, of kids and things. And you know, a lot of people will say to me, and I guess my other point I wanted to make to you guys today is you doing what you do as advocates and teachers and whatever your role is. Um, a lot of people don't hear these stories. They don't see the results of what Head Start has done since the 60s, 70s, 80s. Um, but always remember to tell your story, to what you've done and what you're doing, and never allow someone to rewrite your story for you or edit your story, because stories have power and stories mean something and stories can get our point across to people. Um, the other thing I was thinking a lot of is, advocacy is a big thing that we're talking about now. And I won't get political. I'm going to assume that a lot of us see things the same way, I hope. Um, if not, I still have love for everybody. But when it comes to Head Start and funding, we know, where things are kind of right now. Um, but advocacy is such a huge thing. And the more we can tell our stories, the better advocates we can be. Um, it's such an important part of what we do. And, a lot of times when we tell people things, my father-in-law is a wonderful man. I love him to death. I think he watches Fox News on a loop each hour, each day. And that's fine. My wife and I kind of joke about it. And I'm always very quiet when politics come up with our families sometimes. And a lot of times people will say to us, well, let's agree to disagree, right? You guys have heard that. You'll say something, well, let's agree to disagree. Well, something I've learned is you can say, no, I don't agree. I disagree. And that's okay, because the moment we become silent and we say, okay, well, let's agree to no, say you disagree. It doesn't mean you pick fights with people. It doesn't mean that you bring things up to stir the pot. But when those conversations come up, simply say, I disagree, and this is why. So the more knowledge we have, the more stories we hear, the more people we hear from, um, the better we can be at, the better you can be at your jobs, at your advocacy. Because without what you all are doing, and Brandy has said that you guys have had a great week and been very engaged, and that's incredible. It's awesome. Um, but the moment that we all become silent is the moment we lose. And I think back, to those days, and my mother now, she's like the coolest grandma. They call her Bobo, which I don't know if she realizes it's like after the clown. But she's Bobo. And I know without Head Start, she would never have had the confidence to do what she did. So when you have bad days with your job or tough days or trying days, remember that you're helping people like me and my family break cycles. And there's cycles that have last hundreds of years and they keep going and going. And if you don't help someone break that chain, that repetitive cycle, it's going to keep going. And when we look around us right now and we see ignorance, and I mean that in a nice way, people not understanding. My daughter asked us the other day what ignorant meant, and my wife explained it to her in a much better way than I probably would have. Um, but not knowing, not understanding. Um, but you're helping break those cycles. So, today I look back. My brother is a truck driver, has a very good job. My sister was the director of an adolescent psychiatric unit for 25 years. My other is a master's level social worker with kids. So you see how we kind of fall into these jobs from our childhoods. I've worked in human services, for 20, 25 years. But we all have, children, and our children don't have to go to Head Start, don't need to go to Head Start because we don't qualify. And that's the point, is to get people to where they can make a living, to have things, to not need those services. But without doing what you do, those cycles are never going to be broken. Um, so, I look at my wife and my children now, and I know 100% I would not be where I'm at as a father, as a husband, as an advocate without Head Start. Um, so I was hoping to give you something to kind of like inspire you, to make you, excited after 5 days of Zoom. I work on Zoom a lot for work, so I know the Zoom fatigue, the exhaustion. I was in lockdown, during COVID in 2020 with my wife. She was pregnant with our son, and we had our preschooler, and it can be exhausting. But um, please keep doing what you're doing, because it matters. and it matters to me. And I'm sure there's many other alumni out there that it matters to. Um, I wouldn't be able to speak like this today without Head Start because they got me hooked up with speech and hearing services for 6 years. I mean, there's all these things that you think of, and it's like, where did it start? And that's where it started. So, Brandy, I hope that is something that means something to someone. Um, I'm always happy to talk with any of you, um, about my experiences. I've written some things too. I know on the Kudos board, Brandy has, and I wrote something for Clarion Jefferson Head Start a couple years ago for their annual report. Um, so, if you guys ever wanted me to write anything or to speak up for you, or to advocate, please never hesitate to get my info from Brandy to reach out. I live in Bedford, Pennsylvania. So if any of you are from Bedford County, surrounding area, you might be my neighbor. You might see me coaching softball. The one experience, not having my dad in my life much at all, being young, I do all the dad stuff now. If you see my back wall work, those is all the artwork from my daughter and son. Um, it's kind of all my fancy degrees are over here, but my most important things are behind me. Um, but never hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to talk or give suggestions or write something or speak or whatever it might be. So I think that's it. And I just want you guys to remember that are on here. What you do matters. My wife is a school psychologist. What she does matters. It changes lives. So keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for listening to me and keep on doing it because it matters. And we'll get through this. We'll get through this year. We'll get through next year. Things have a way of working out, as my mother always says.